So welcome everybody. To those of you who are here, in what's called a living experience, and those of you who are here in a virtual experience. We're all here. This is our home. You know, they say that every Buddha, every Bodhisattva has their field to cultivate. For whatever reason, our field seems to be here on Nebraska Avenue. So this is our field. And hopefully all of us will feel that this is my field to cultivate. Not simply the buildings and the grounds, but all the beings of all types that come here. And we look upon that we now have a wonderful focus for our bodhisattvic intention and energy, aspiration to manifest in a very real way. So it's quite wonderful. I do want to spend some time listening to people, especially aspirants, but I did want to read a little bit today. And I want to read from a great Buddhist teacher. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh, and I think he's often misjudged by many people. Many people think that he's, sort of mindful living. Mindfulness in daily life is his thing. And I know often in other circles, I know that often his dharma is called, I've often heard people say that, it's called Buddhism light. Like Bud Light or something. That Thai's teaching is Buddhism light. But anyhow, people have been entitled to their opinions. I'm reading from the first edition of the Interbeing commentaries on the Tiep Hien precepts, when it was still called Tiep Hien. 1987, first published by Parallax Press. And again, I want to share with you, but I think it is, when I thought of anything I could say, it would be just be like a knockoff. So I wanted to go right to the source. So please listen. It's actually interesting, in the Tibetan tradition, when a teacher is transmitting some teaching, some sutra teaching or some text teaching, they often, before they teach, they do this kind of ritual where they read the whole thing. And they often read it quite fast, some of them quite long. But it goes back to the importance of hearing it, hearing the whole teaching. And so, let me just share it with you. So, he's talking about Tiep Hien, and he basically uses 4 phrases to describe it: to be in touch with, to continue, to realize, and to make it here and now. And then he kind of comments on his own phrases. What are we to be in touch with? And so please listen to this, even though it is my voice, as if you're receiving a direct transmission of the teachings, the words, and the meaning from Thich Nhat Hanh himself, because these are his words. So let them go in deep. What are we in touch with? The answer is reality. The reality of the mind as well as the reality of the world. To be in touch with mind means not only to be aware of the processes of our inner life, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, etc., but also to rediscover our true mind, which is the source of understanding and compassion. Being in touch with true mind is like digging deep in the soil until we reach a hidden source and the well fills with fresh water. Upon rediscovering our true mind, we are filled with understanding and compassion, which not only nourishes us, but those around us as well. And then he goes on to say, now I'm stepping out of that. Is that clear? His teaching is very clear. It is not only mindfulness of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, right? It is not only in terms of being aware of that phenomena which is apparent to the senses and to the thinking mind, but most essentially it is also about touching our true mind, our Buddha mind, the ground. And as he says, being in touch with the true mind is like digging deep in the soil until we reach a hidden source, and the well feels like water. Is that clear? For those of you who think you have something to do, you have nothing to do. When you touch the source, your mind will be filled with this refreshment. You don't have to do anything. And he says next, upon rediscovering our true mind, we are filled with understanding and compassion. I don't think people really believe this. We are so identified and so attached to our thinking mind and to our self-identity that it's hard to believe that there is this intuitive wisdom that understands everything, and that it has nothing to do with us and our capacity to think. That we have to get out of the way and touch that source and let that spring. You know, has anybody's ever, dug, looking for water, right? When you dig into the spring, the water just bubbles up. What to do? It's already there. So he's teaching us deeply here that our purpose is not just only mindfulness of, it is to go beyond that and touch deeply the truth of our own being and let our own Buddha wisdom, natural wisdom, whatever you want to call it, and compassion, to fill us up. And this is not about reading. This is not about discussing. This is not about figuring it out or understanding it intellectually. He's pointing us in a very different direction. So please understand that this is what our teacher is telling us. And then he goes on to say, next paragraph, to be in touch with true mind is also to be in touch with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, who are enlightened beings doing their best to show us the way of understanding, peace, and happiness. To be in touch with the reality of the world means to be in touch with everything that surrounds us, which includes the animal, vegetable, and mineral realms. And for those of us, and I think pretty much everybody here, is in the Deconstructing the Myth of Self intensive, then he says, in order to really be in touch, we must strive to get out of our shell, the conceited shell of, quote unquote, I am. We must try to see both the wonderful things in life, like snowflakes, moonlight, bird songs, flower blossoms, and the dreadful things like hunger, disease, torture, oppression, and other forms of suffering. With understanding and compassion, we can enter into life with a firm desire to alleviate the suffering around us. So here he very clearly puts the order, and those of us who are in the order or aspirants to the order, in this tradition of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And invites us to be like that. Invites us to break out of our shell of self, break out of of the narrow, constricted life of self, of I, me, mine, of self-concern, self-indulgence, self-centeredness, egocentricity, come out of that and touch reality, which he clearly says. You know, it's the pretty stuff. It's the birds and the snowflakes and the flower blossoms, but it's also the hunger, disease, torture, and depression. All the phenomena of reality. As bodhisattvas, we are invited to touch, but touch with a certain kind of mind. A mind that does not discriminate. A mind that is just merely present. And in that presence, lets one's understanding and compassion unfold so one can deal skillfully and appropriately with the situation. And then he goes on. In the past, we may have made the primary mistake of distinguishing between the inner world of our mind and the outer world of outside. These are not two separate worlds. They belong to the same reality. Stepping out. This is the teaching of non-duality. I saw somebody interview last night, and I said to her, look at me. Am I inside your mind and outside your mind? It's kind of the same question. That's a primary mistake. The inner world is different than the outer world. You're different than I am different than you, you're different than me. He says clearly, this is not the way things are. They are one reality. There's no separation. And he goes on to say, notions of inside and outside are helpful in everyday life, but they can become an obstacle preventing us from seeing ultimate reality. Question for all of us. This is Rick. Question for all of us. Do I want to see ultimate reality? Interesting question. Maybe no one ever asked us that question. It's not the kind of ordinary question we have.
That question?
Do I want to see ultimate reality? And that's a very personal question. And how we answer that question will have a lot to do with how we live our life, how we conduct our life, the things we do in our life. So these are very important questions. Please, when you read these words yourself, don't skip over them lightly. Stop. Notions of inside or outside are helpful in everyday life, but they become an obstacle preventing us from seeing ultimate reality. If we are able to see deeply into our mind, we can simultaneously see deeply into the world. If we truly understand the world, we will also understand our mind. Buddhists call this, quote unquote, this unity of mind and the world. How wonderful. How simple. Because we think, oh, understanding the world sounds big. We think the world is big, complicated. But he clearly says, when you understand the nature of your mind, you understand the nature of the world. And hopefully, as you hear those words, you go, well, that's easy. Right? Because my mind is right here. I don't have to go anywhere. Right? I don't have to read anything. I don't have to get a job. Right? I can even just hang out on my back deck, right? And look deeply into my mind. That which is listening to me right now. This is your original mind. This is your mind. It is nowhere else. There's nowhere else you need to look. right here. And then I'll skip the next paragraph. And then he comes, so that has all been on his first words, to be in touch with. Next, he says, we come to the concept of, quote unquote, to continue, or continuation. Tiep, which is the Vietnamese character, means to tie the ends of two strings together in order to make a longer line. To continue connotes extending and perpetuating the career of enlightenment, which was started and nourished by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that preceded us. It is helpful to remember that the word Buddha denotes he or she who is awake or enlightened. The word Bodhisattva also signifies an enlightened person. The way of enlightenment that was started by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas should be continued. And this is the responsibility of all who undertake Buddhist practice. Sowing the seeds of enlightenment and taking good care of the tree of enlightenment are the meaning of to continue. This is clear. I mean, he's clearly saying that, sort of what I kind of referred to earlier, that there is this timeless career that all enlightened beings and masters and students have participated in. Taking care of the tree of enlightenment, sowing the seeds of enlightenment. This is the historical work of the people in our lineage. As he says, this is the responsibility of all who undertake Buddhist practice, to continue in whatever world system, wherever you are, whatever life condition you're in. Your job, if you really are a daughter or son of the Buddha, if you really do believe yourself to be a part of this family, part of this lineage, part of this tradition. So this is what you see as your job, the continuation. Right? And when he says, remember he says joining, continuing two strings together. These are the strings of the future and the past. Right? We bring them together. Right? That this wonderful string of Dharma that connects us directly back to the Buddha and connects us to all the masters and the teachers of this noble family. And then all the generations to come, right, that we only imagine. If there is nobody here to connect, it will die. It will disappear from this world system. And there are many world systems where these teachings are not alive. There's nothing available to beings to show them another way. So it is so important that we see ourselves in our own self, our own personal transformative way, that we are taking this string and we are nourishing it and nurturing it in ourselves and in the world around us so it can be continued. I remember when we first talked about this center and Elena said legacy. She felt it's good to know that all this work that we're doing, right, that it will continue after we're gone. So that's what Thay's saying. So again, these are questions to ask ourselves. Do I feel that string, past and future? Do I feel that connection to this lineage or this tradition of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? And to me, that's really what why ordination is about. It's willing to very personally, but overtly say, yeah, yes I am. Taking ordination, becoming an aspirant, taking ordination, putting on the brown robe, it means I'm willing to externally, overtly, right, demonstrate that I am, I see myself as part of that tradition, and I'm willing, because of my aspirancy, my ordination, to be accountable. No time off. I'm accountable. No regression. I'm accountable. And I feel the example of our teachers, of our mentors, to keep me on task. You know? Whoever you look to as your teacher, your masters, Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddha, any great figure, if you always had them beside you, would you do all the things you do? If you're always in their presence? Think the things you think, do the things you do. What do you say, Bill?
I do, but
What? You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? If I know you love Ty. I mean, if Ty was always with you,
yeah.
you know, from the moment you're here, he was in bed with you. It's not your wife and stuff, and you know. So it's like that. The third concept is to realize, or realization. Hien means not to dwell and be caught in the world of doctrines and ideas, but to transform insights into real life. Understanding and compassion must not become ideas about, understanding and compassion must not become ideas about understanding and compassion. They must be real, existing entities within life itself, which can be seen, touched, and experimented. The presence of understanding and compassion can concretely alleviate suffering and will cause the birth of joy and the appearance of a smile. Of course, to realize does not only mean to act. First of all, realization connotes transforming oneself. This transformation creates a harmony between oneself and nature, between one's own joy and the joy of others. Once a person gets in touch with the source of understanding and compassion, this transformation is accomplished. Right? So we need to take, understanding and compassion not as ideas, not as words, but we need to take them into our life and begin to live and act from them in reality. Real situations, real people, right? The nitty-gritty. The mud of life, right? And that will cause the alleviation of suffering. And then he says, in this transformation that begins just with embracing and then a willingness to take this into the reality of our everyday life, our daily life, our personal, interpersonal life. This journey will end when we actually then one day realize the source, and where it's sort of like all our intention and work encounters this deep spring source of all our natural wisdom. And because the channels or the well or whatever you call it has been dug through all our efforts in practice, when this water comes up, it will just come out. And all the places for it to come out will already be set because you've already dug all those channels. Is that clear? So don't think that your practice from this side where you're digging is wasted, right? Because not only will your channels to the source allow you to get to the source, but it means once you touch the source, now that those waters will have channels to come into life. When this transformation, which is this deep source of understanding compassion, is accomplished, all of one's actions will carry the same nature and effect, protecting and building life with understanding and compassion. It's not a bad purpose in life, is it? Next time somebody says, what's the purpose of your life? You can say, protecting and building life with understanding and compassion. If one wishes to share joy and happiness with others, one should have joy and happiness within oneself. If one wishes to transmit serenity, first one should realize it for oneself. Without a sane and peaceful mind, one's actions could only create more trouble and destruction in the world. So that's wonderful, isn't it? He's really kind of putting it to us with that one, isn't it? Right? Good for him. He's holding our feet to the fire. If one wishes to share joy and happiness with others, one should have joy and happiness within oneself. If one wishes to transmit serenity, first one should realize it in oneself. Without a sane and peaceful mind. So many people who are aspirants, many people in the order go, well, what kind of mind should the aspirant be cultivating? What sort of mind should the person who's been ordained be manifesting in the world? Sane and peaceful. Sanity here means what? We're not insane. Insane means an insane person. Is anybody here in the mental health field? What's an insane person?
Someone whose mind is not working right.
Doesn't see reality as it is. That's insane. When they don't see reality as it is and think all their thoughts and feelings and belief and images are real, that's insane. Right? So he counsels a fundamental sanity. Sane. That one clearly can differentiate between reality as it is and the endless projections, thoughts, misperceptions, feelings, all that stuff. One knows that that's not to believe that one's thoughts are real and to be acted upon all the time is insane. We need to be sane. And we need to be peaceful. Peaceful means what? No agitation. Our hearts and minds are peaceful. So I think that's a good criteria. For those of us who are mentors, when we're looking at aspirants, we want to ask them to feel through the practice of your aspirancy you're becoming saner. Less insanity. Calm. More soothing. Good criteria, I guess. The last expression for us to examine is to make it here and now. Within the spirit of Tiep Hien, only the present is real and everlasting. The peace we desire is not in the distant future, but something to be realized in the present. When's the present? This is Fred talking now. Present is when? No. If you want to be peaceful now. Which means concurrently, or that if you find you are not peaceful right now, then what? go of whatever it is that's agitating. But we don't like to do that. Because we are practitioners of drama. We are not practitioners of Dharma. Right? And we need to become practitioners of Dharma and not practitioners of drama. The peace we desire is not in the distant future, but something to be realized in the present. To practice Buddhism does not mean to endure hard things now for the sake of peace and liberation in the future. The purpose of Buddhist practice is not to be reborn in paradise or a Buddha land after death. The purpose of the practice is to have peace for ourselves and others right now while we're breathing. Means and ends cannot be different. And then he quotes, I'm not sure what he's quoting, but he puts in quotations, Bodhisattvas are careful about causes, while ordinary people care more about effects. Quite interesting. Bodhisattvas are more careful about causes, while ordinary people care more about effects. And then he says, because Bodhisattvas see that cause and effect are one, and means are ends in themselves. An enlightened person never says, quote unquote, this is only a means. And he or she worries about those who declare, quote unquote, whatever means will help me attain my goals are good, end of quote. Based on the insight that means are ends, all forms of practice should be entered into mindfully and peacefully. While practicing sitting meditation, walking meditation, cleaning, working, or serving, the person who practices should feel peace within herself or himself. The aim of sitting meditation is to be peaceful during sitting meditation. Working to help hungry or sick people means to be peaceful during the work. The one who practices does not expect the practice will pay large rewards in the future, even if that reward is nirvana, the pure light, enlightenment, Buddha. The secret of Buddhism is to be awake here and now. That's the big secret. You just let it happen. It's wonderful. Maybe we should put that around the center somewhere. The secret of Buddhism is to be awake here and now. Should we let the secret out? So anyhow, I want to share that with you. These wise words from the founder of the order. So we have about 20 minutes. We have, how many people are aspirants? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ordained members are outnumbered. Could be dangerous for us. So, in response to what was shared from our teacher today, comments, responses, questions, in terms of your own life and practice, as an aspirant, as an order member.